Hi everyone, my channel is English Ladder. Let's start learn English like a native.
We're here to cut through all that noise and get straight to the insights you can actually use. In today's world, there's just this constant flood of information, and we all want to quickly figure out what's important and maybe more crucially, how to apply it. So that's pretty much our mission for this deep dive. We've gathered a whole stack of sources, everything from guides on preparing for language exams, like the IELTS, to research on workplace skills, how we learn differently, even what makes a good team leader our goal. To pull out the key takeaways and maybe connect some dots you weren't expecting. So the big question driving us is this: how do these things that seem so separate, IELTS prep, problem-solving skills, learning styles, leadership qualities, how are they actually, deeply linked? We think they offer some really profound, actionable insights for you, whatever your goals might be. Okay, let's start by pulling back the curtain on the IELTS Speaking Part 1. Lots of people see it as just, well, the test, something to get through, but our sources suggest it's actually like a mini masterclass in clear, concise communication. It usually lasts about 4 to 5 minutes, could be face-to-face, could be online, and the examiner asks two main kinds of questions. First, personal ones. About you, your work, your life, like, do you work or are you a student? Or maybe, do you like your job? Why? Or where do you live? Do you like it there? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
These aren't just small talk. They're really designed to help you warm up, get comfortable, and show you can talk naturally about familiar stuff. The second type, questions on familiar topics. Everyday things like food, sports, maybe watches, jeans, holidays. You get the idea. Could be something like, do you like wearing watches? Or why do people like expensive watches?
The idea is just to see how easily you can discuss common subjects.
Yeah, and what's striking is how simple these questions seem on the surface, but the way you answer them, that's absolutely key for the assessment, which really brings up a bigger point, doesn't it? What are the core strategies for answering effectively and concisely? Not just for this test, but really for any time you need to communicate clearly.
Exactly. That's the core of it. And the sources give some really clear pointers for those personal questions. First, stay calm. Seriously. Try to think of it more like a casual chat with a colleague. Relax, try to engage a bit. Second, honesty helps a lot. It just makes you sound more natural, more fluent.
Makes sense.
And third, this applies everywhere. Avoid just saying yes or no. The examiner or anyone you're talking to needs a bit more to go on, right? To understand you.
Right, they need substance.
Fourth, keep it concise. You're not giving a speech here. Keep answers brief, but, complete. Sources suggest maybe 2 or 3 sentences is a good length.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Going over 4 or 5 is probably too much for this stage. And finally, always expand just a little. Give a reason, an example, a bit more detail. So instead of just saying teacher, if they ask about your job, you might say, I'm a teacher. I specialize in teaching IELTS, mostly online. I actually run my own company. See?
That's a perfect example. Adds depth without going on too long. And that point about extending, that's really where the deeper skill building happens. It naturally pushes you to use more complex sentences, which is obviously good for test scores, but it's also just fundamental for more sophisticated communication generally. The sources also flag some key mistakes to avoid, especially with those familiar topic questions, like definitely don't memorize answers. Examiners can spot that a mile off. Or, well, anyone experienced in conversation can tell. It sounds robotic, undermines that natural flow.
Right. Authenticity is key.
And another thing, don't try to force in fancy vocabulary you're not really comfortable with. It just makes mistakes more likely, and frankly, it can sound a bit unnatural.
Good point.
And, okay, what if you don't understand the question? Don't panic. And definitely don't just stay silent. Just politely ask them to repeat it. Could you say that again, please? Something like that. Then answer based on what you did catch. It shows you can manage the conversation, even with a little bump.
Yeah, and there's a great real-world example in the sources that illustrates this. It's about an IELTS candidate named Rashmi. Apparently, she started off giving quite short answers, but as she practiced elaborating, giving reasons, giving examples, her coherence, fluency, even her grammatical range, they all improved significantly.
Huh.
And what was really insightful was how the examiner sometimes just prompted with a simple why, when they wanted her to say a bit more.
Gentle nudge.
Yeah, it's a subtle cue we often miss in everyday chats too, right? It shows why giving enough detail is important.
Yeah.
So, okay, what does all this tell us about speaking effectively? Not just in a test, but anywhere your words count. The sources boil it down to 4 main criteria: fluency and coherence, lexical resource, that's basically a vocabulary, grammatical range, and accuracy, and pronunciation.
And what's really illuminating, I think, is that these aren't just random test metrics. They're essentially the bedrock of clear, impactful communication, period. They reflect the fundamental ways we understand each other, how we make ourselves understood in the real world. Getting these right is key to making sure your message actually lands.
Okay, let's unpack them a bit. First, fluency and coherence. This is about how smoothly you speak at a normal pace without, too much hesitation, and organizing your ideas logically, using linking words smoothly.
And a really important point here.
Yeah.
Those little natural pauses.
Yeah.
Even saying, or totally normal. Native speakers do it all the time. We pause to think.
Right. It's not a sign of poor fluency.
Exactly. True fluency is about speaking in a natural rhythm, with those natural thinking pauses included.
Okay, next, lexical resource, your vocabulary. This is about using a good range of words, flexibly, to get your meaning across precisely. Using less common words or idioms skillfully fits in here too.
But the advice from the sources is interesting.
How so?
Focus on topic-specific words rather than just trying to drop in big words that might sound forced.
Ah, right. That can backfire.
Yeah, it can actually mess with your fluency if you're constantly searching for that impressive word.
Good tip. Okay, third, grammatical range and accuracy. This means using different grammatical structures flexibly and, crucially, getting them right most of the time, making mostly error-free sentences.
And remember what we said about expanding your answers.
Yeah.
When you do that naturally, you automatically start using more complex sentences, so it directly helps with demonstrating range.
Oh, makes sense. It all ties together. And finally, pronunciation. This covers things like intonation, the music of your voice sentence stress, linking words together smoothly. Clarity is the main goal here, right? Being easily understood.
Definitely. And you mentioned intonation. Let's quickly touch on that. What is it exactly? It's basically the rise and fall of your voice pitch. It carries a surprising amount of meaning.
Like how?
Well, think about the word fine. Say with a rising tone, fine. It sounds like you're okay, maybe asking back, but say with a falling tone, fine. It can mean you're definitely not fine, maybe even annoyed.
Ah, yeah, completely different feeling.
Totally. And volume matters too. Someone speaking too quietly might not be clear. The sources suggest speaking from the diaphragm for better projection, making sure you're heard clearly.
That's practical advice.
Yeah.
And another key piece of general advice from the sources, don't fixate on your accent. Examiners, especially in tests like IELTS, are trained for all sorts of accent.
Absolutely. And in general life too.
Worrying about it just makes you self-conscious, which can actually hurt your performance.
It really can.
Oh, and one more critical point the sources brought up. Avoid bringing up really traumatic or super emotional stuff if it pops into your head during a conversation, especially a formal one.
Why is that?
Because it can understandably cause stress, make you flustered, and that negatively impacts how clearly and fluently you can speak.
Ah, okay. So it's about maintaining composure for effective communication.
Exactly. Keeping a clear head helps you communicate better, whatever the setting. So, okay. We've really dug into effective speaking, using the test as a starting point. But here's where it gets really interesting. The connections. These aren't just test skills. Our sources call them transversal skills,
Yes.
meaning they cut across different areas, they're highly valued everywhere, work, life, you name it.
Right. And that brings us straight to problem solving. The sources consistently describe this as, well, indispensable, especially at work. And it's not just about fixing things when they break, it's also the ability to gather information, process it effectively. One source even mentioned finding and curating problems of high impact. So being proactive.
Finding the right problems to solve.
Exactly. It's about taking theoretical knowledge and making it work in the real world, making it useful.
Yeah, and the sources really spell out why problem solving is so vital in the workplace. First off, work problems are often messy, right? Complex, dynamic, involving different people, departments.
Definitely not simple textbook cases.
You need a structured way to approach them. It also boosts productivity, efficiency. If you can quickly find the root cause and fix it, that saves time, money, resources.
Makes perfect sense.
It also drives innovation, pushes people to think outside the box, find creative solutions, keeps things fresh. And it's crucial for managing conflicts, relationships. A calm, analytical approach to disagreements works way better than just reacting emotionally.
Emotional intelligence comes into play there too.
For sure. It also helps leaders understand their team's better strengths, weaknesses, boosting overall performance. And in today's world, adaptability is key. Problem solving helps you navigate uncertainty, unpredictable situations.
Very true. Things change fast.
Plus, it has a huge long-term impact on your career. Good problem solvers are always in demand for leadership roles. And finally, it keeps everyone aligned with the bigger picture, the company goals, connecting the dots between daily issues and strategy.
It's quite a list. And what's really fascinating, connecting back to our earlier points, is how many core problem-solving skills are basically mirrors of those communication skills we talked about.
How do you mean?
Well, take critical thinking. Analyzing problems, evaluating solutions. That's very similar to structuring your thoughts for a coherent answer, right?
Okay.
Especially under pressure.
Okay, I see that.
Communication itself being able to clearly articulate the problem and the proposed solution. That's the essence of effective speaking.
Directly linked.
Creative problem solving, coming up with novel ideas. That's like thinking on your feet, providing original examples to elaborate on a point. Emotional intelligence, empathy, negotiation, staying calm. We mentioned that connection to managing reactions in conversation.
Yes.
And decision-making, weighing options, choosing the best path. That's like deciding how to best phrase an answer or respond to a tricky question. The underlying cognitive processes feel remarkably similar.
That's a really insightful connection. They're not separate buckets of skills at all. And these aren't just for individual work, are they? They're crucial for leadership. Our sources list qualities of effective team leaders. And look how many map directly. Clear communicator, obviously. Confidence in the team. Being respectful, fair, kind.
Foundational leadership traits.
Demonstrating integrity. Being influential, which requires good communication. Willing to delegate. Being a powerful facilitator, again. Communication and problem solving. And a skilled negotiator.
It really drives home that these are universal building blocks, not just for tests, not just for work tasks, but for effective human interaction and leadership.
Which brings us to the really practical question.
How do we actually get better at these things?
Exactly. How do we cultivate these skills, whether it's for a specific goal, like that test, or just for overall personal and professional growth?
Knowing they're important is one thing. Building them consistently is the real challenge.
Well, the good news is our sources offer some really practical ways to boost all these things. Fluency, communication, problem solving, things you can do whether you're prepping for an assessment or just want to handle daily interactions better.
And stepping back slightly, one powerful tool the sources mention is understanding your own learning style. Knowing how you learn best can make your practice much more efficient and, frankly, more enjoyable. They generally highlight three main styles: visual, auditory, and kinesthetic.
Right. Let's break those down. If you're a visual learner, you like information you can see. Pictures, charts, diagrams, visual aids. You probably remember things well if you've seen them written down or visualized.
So for visual learners,
Tips include things like mind mapping, using color coding, watching videos or relevant media, and crucially, recording yourself speaking and then watching it back. Seeing your own performance can be really revealing.
interesting, turning audio into a visual analysis.
Exactly. Then there are auditory learners. You learn best by hearing and speaking. You probably have good listening skills, prefer verbal instructions, remember what you hear.
So strategies for them would be:
Things like group discussions, conversations, listening to podcasts like this one, or lecture recordings, finding a speaking partner to practice with, listening actively to interviews or other English media. That's PIME learning for auditory types.
makes sense. And the third?
Kinesthetic learners. You learn best by doing, by physical experience, hands-on interaction. You might get restless just sitting still. You need to engage physically.
So how does that translate to language or communication practice?
Methods like role-playing different scenarios, doing simulations, like actually simulating the exam conditions we talked about, practicing answering questions with no prep time, even paying attention to body language, yours and others, can be a form of kinesthetic learning and communication.
That's a helpful breakdown. But regardless of learning style, what comes through loud and clear from all the sources is the absolute power of practice. Consistent, focused practice.
Yes, it's hammered home again and again.
Simulate those exam conditions. If that's your goal, use a timer, record yourself. But even more broadly, practice thinking on your feet. Practice responding spontaneously. And that recording part, it's critical.
Why so much emphasis on recording?
Because analyzing your own recordings gives you objective feedback. It's like holding up a mirror. You catch things, hesitations, word choices, intonation patterns, even how you structure thoughts that you simply miss in the moment. It turns that subjective feeling of how you think you sound into actual data you can work with.
That's a powerful point. It's about self-awareness. And one final super practical tip that came up for communication in any context, using stalling phrases or hesitation devices.
Ah, like fillers, but
What?
used strategically.
Exactly. Things like, well, let me think, or that's an interesting question, or let's see, or even what else can I say about that, or that reminds me of.
They buy you a few seconds to think, right?
Precisely. And they're a natural part of fluent speech. They don't sound like struggling. They sound like you're considering your answer.
It allows your brain to catch up without just going silent or stumbling badly. Makes you seem more composed.
So yeah, a really useful little technique for everyday conversations too. Okay, so we started this deep dive talking about an English test, IELTS Speaking Part 1. But what we've actually unpacked is, well, a whole toolkit of skills, isn't it? Clarity, coherence, confident expression, critical thinking, skills that are vital way beyond any exam room.
Absolutely. The ability to communicate well, to solve problems creatively, to adapt, maybe even to lead. It all seems to hinge on mastering these fundamental competencies. It really proves that preparing for something specific, if you focus on the underlying skills, can bring huge universal benefits. Benefits that ripple out into almost every part of your life.
Yeah, this deep dive really highlights that. Whether your immediate goal is a test score, or maybe prepping for a big meeting, or even just wanting to be a bit more articulate and confident day to day, focusing on these core principles, clear communication, structured thinking, active problem solving, will fundamentally boost your capabilities. So here's something to think about. What if you practice these strategies, maybe just for 5 minutes a day, even just consciously observing your own conversations, how you respond to questions or challenges? How might that small, consistent effort fundamentally change how you approach opportunities and maybe even problems in your world?